Hello everyone and welcome to Kdh Art Class. We are basically spending a little time on making a sphere. This is a color theory lesson that I wanted to give just a monochromatic version of. So we'll be focusing on something called value. Okay. Value is going from light to dark. An example of that would be, if I can get this out of my way, I'm going to use my ebony pencil here so you can see I'm lightly touching. Then I'm going to push a little bit harder, and I'm going to push a little bit harder, and then I'm going to push, even harder on it, and you'll get this nice little light to dark variation. That is, again, value. If you do not have colors or you do not use colors, then you are going to need to create the illusion of color based on your lights and darks. So this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced lesson, but at the same time, our younger artists, I encourage them to try something a little bit harder. They never know what they might excel at. So let's begin. You're going to need pencil, paper, eraser, and for my littlest ones, I recommend another piece of paper with something that you can cut, trace, and cut out a circle. My goodness, I got all kinds of stuff going here. Cut out a circle to use as your template or your stencil to help you start the initial drawing of a circle. Okay, so we did kind of a negative space thing, so this is what I'm going to encourage my little ones to start with, making a sphere, again using a circle, and then we will focus on coloring outside of that, creating a nice little negative space. No, you do not need it on the dark paper, because again, this is our pencil version. So what I did is I found something circular, in this case, in this case, a little jelly jar lid and a nice circle in size to it. You can go larger or smaller depending on what you want. Once you trace around, you can cut it out. And again, this is for my beginners when they're starting out. I know I have some other students that are very, very, very concerned with it doesn't look like a circle. If you need this to help maintain a little calmness in your life, but you're going to have to get used to, as an artist, just accepting it doesn't have to be the perfect circle. Okay, so once you have cut out your circle, again, my beginners, my little ones, pre-K, kinder first, okay, you are just going to take your pencil and you are going to go all the way around on top of that circle that you did and out a little bit. So this is for my little ones to begin with. And it's just something kind of fun for my more advanced artists, my older ones, or just a basic beginner that's just like, I'm nervous. Don't be nervous, it's art. Okay, so you have created a negative space, basically a hole in your paper, or that is, the drawing is on the outside, there's nothing on the inside, that's your negative space. So this is your negative space little circle. We want it to look like a sphere, so we're just going to do a little colored curved line and a shadow. So I tell the kids just do kind of like an oval, and then of course make sure it's touching the bottom. So I might need this to come up a little bit, and you make it as dark as you can, and you start creating the illusion of your sphere. And that's a simple way of doing it. Okay. Add a little rectangle and a little loop, and you created what looks like a cute little ornament, and it's a start. It is a start. Okay, so let's get on to our more advanced kids. Again, moving along with the next step. Let's just say I'm uncomfortable. I want my circle to be more correct. Then sure enough, use your little stencil, and I think I just moved my stencil. We shall see. Oh, not terribly bad, just a little bit. And you have the start of your circle. Now, if you're willing to go out there, most of us artists, we start by warming up our hand. This is about the direction and size that we want to go, and we draw lightly until we start getting it to look like the circular shape that we want. And as we find those lines that we like to be our circle, then we can come in and start removing the ones we don't like. So many beginners, they sit there and they draw it and like, oh, I don't like it, and they erase the whole thing, or at least they try, and then they try again, and they erase the whole thing, and they spend their whole time erasing. Where if you just kind of sit here for a minute, you know, maybe you have a few wild ones happening there, but it's okay. Once you get more of that shape, now I can start getting rid of those wild ones, those wild lines that went way out there, and you start creating your circle that way. You don't have to erase every time, okay? So once you start getting your circle, practice. There's nothing wrong with just sitting there practicing circles. It's actually calming. That circular motion, it does help calm the body. I don't know why. It just does. Okay, so now we want to make that circle look more real. Beginners, you just did the highlight, and we actually did the opposite. We created a dark highlight. Another option would be to create the highlight itself with a little bit of these little curved little bends, and then you can start coloring it all in, leaving those spots light. So what's that going to look like? So I start coloring it in. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to want to color straight lines across a round object. No, 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 no. Always have curved lines, curved lines, curved lines, curved lines going this way, following that curve on the side, you know, curved lines that are actually going to crisscross with them. Nothing is going to be straight. And it's okay if they, you know, kind of crisscross. And then they're like, yeah, but that's what I'm doing, Miss Art Teacher. No, that's not. That's straight lines. That's scribble scrabble. This is cross contour. You're really actually thinking about the shape of the item that you are shading. And it is not straight, it's round. So your lines have to be round. Alright. So that's more of your cross contour shading. So as you're coming in here, you should be curving it. If it helps for you to begin for you beginners to start off with just going with that rounded shape. Start with the outside. Start with the outside, then move your pencil in closer and closer and closer. Okay. At least, even though this is not correct, at least not 100%, it is more correct in the sense that you've created that roundness. Okay. The more correct is you want kind of the spirally thing to be here and building out, but again, this is a great way to start. You're not going to be the best artist the day you're born. I've been doing it for, goodness gracious, almost, not quite, half a century. For my little ones, that means almost 50 years. And I'm still learning. Okay? So as you're going along, this is the start of it. Okay, beginners, this is a good start. You do not have to shade it in. Again, you could just leave it as the negative space. Again, this is kind of pre-K kinder. This is your start. Right around 2nd grade, you know, you're starting to get here. All right, let's focus on 3rd, 4th, and 5th. 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you're now starting to understand when a light is shining. And I usually do this little, here's my light, it's shining on, you know, it's shining on the object. Right? Yay, it's coming this way. Your lightest area is going to be here because that's where the light is hitting it. Then you have a shadow over here that is opposite of it. And so that's what you start thinking of when you get a little bit more mature in your art. So for my little starters, it's kind of like you want to very lightly do a circle. Yes, you can barely see it on the computer screen. That's what I want. Because we're actually going to go darker over here. And then it's going to get lighter and lighter till you get to the circle. And you really don't want this circle shape at all. With this one, I did not do a circle at all. I just simply, as I got closer and closer, made it lighter. And of course, if it's not light enough, what's nice is we can do what's called the takeaway. And we can come in with our eraser and start making it lighter that way. So we don't necessarily want to do a circle, but again, 3rd grade, you know, maybe some of my 4th grade, we need to start to understand that there is this little area here where nothing pencil-wise should be going in there to shade it. And we are working on creating that kind of curved line look. Again, we know it's not flat, so everything should be bending. You could be bending it in this way, and you do want it to kind of crisscross a little bit. You don't want it to have that same pattern. You can give yourself a head start going, oh, I know this is going to be darker, and you can start shading this in darker, and then come on top with the lines. So I'm shading that in, give myself a head start, and then I'm coming in from the edges towards the highlight. And it's slowly driving me insane that I have that little circle there. And I like to turn my paper can get to the edges a little bit more. And notice I'm going on top of that shadow that we started. And because they're crisscrossing, it's actually making it a little bit darker. Good. We want that area dark. What we're doing here is called cross-hatching. Lines are crisscrossing in different directions, creating our darks and lights. So you might see me going this way for part of it, and then I'm going to change directions, and then I'm going to go the other direction so that it almost makes X's. So you'll see me going this way, and then you'll see me going this way, and then you'll see me going on top of it. Okay. Then you'll see me kind of curve this way and this way, cross-hatching. And it little by little starts to make that sphere look more and more real. More practice means you're getting better. Trying it once and quitting, well, you're not going to get much better than you did that very one time that you do it. I tell my students all the time, it's like an NFL football player standing there, and this teenage kid walks up and says, I want to go to the Super Bowl. He's like, oh, did you practice? No, I just want to go to the Super Bowl. But you don't know how to throw or catch or any of those other things you need to know when you are playing that sport. You just want to go to the Super Bowl without doing anything. You have to practice. You have to work at it. Alright, so we're going along here. Okay. And I'm just working it with more and more and more lines. At this point, my kids that hang in there with me, they start going, oh, it's working. And the ones that are doing this, still not working. I know, you're scribble scrabbling. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But I'm going in all the different directions like you did. Yes, but you're doing straight lines. And you're cutting through the middle. You have to curve it. So as you're going, it's looking more and more correct. Again, it's not going to be perfect the first time you do it. It takes practice. There's a couple things you can do. You can take a tissue, not your finger. I actually learned that just a couple years ago. Okay, from drawing teachers at the high school level. I'm an elementary teacher. And they said, please don't teach them to use the finger. And I'm like, yeah, but it's cheap and I have, 700 students that I need cheap stuff for. So the tissue is the compromise. And you can sit there and rub, again in a circular manner. Start softening it. Now I lost a lot of my lights and darks, so that's okay. You come in with your eraser. Now these erasers you may or may not be familiar with. They're kind of like clay in a way, but what you do is when you twist it around and stuff like that, you can make it pointy. And then it can come in and just do these fine little drawing lines, because I have just a teeny tiny little point there. And then when it starts to not work, you just twist it and rub it. You can do bigger areas. As you're working. And again, I want that middle area right where that light is hitting it. Should be the brightest, whitest part of the paper. Right there. And it should be bursting out kind of like the sun. Knock off some of that stuff. Alright, And then what really brings it home is the shadow. So we have the light, and it's coming down, we'll say this direction. So my shadow should be starting a little bit under, and should be stretching out way out here. But with all things, it's going to be darker underneath and next to my sphere. And then it's going to get lighter as more sunlight can reach it. And lighter and lighter as it goes further and further away. I also like to kind of put it on something like the ground. And voila, you have a value scale with light to dark creation of a sphere using just a pencil. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better you get in everything in life. Going out there the very first time is not going to be your best time. All right, have fun, create, and don't be afraid. Bye.